Quick question. When was the last time a display ad changed your mind? Now think about the last time a friend told you about something they loved. Different feeling, right? That's how podcast advertising works. A host who's built real trust with their audience talks about your brand in their own words, in their own voice. It doesn't interrupt the experience. It's part of it. With Acast, you can access the world's largest podcast marketplace. Choose the right shows, the right audiences, the right format. Then watch the data tell you it worked. You're not buying impressions. You're buying influence. Learn more by visiting acast.com/advertise.
Hi everyone, thank you for listening today. And just before the podcast begins, I wanted to let you know that if you are looking to improve your own leadership skills and are thinking about a coach to help you take the next step, then why not consider Elevated Leadership? We are executive coaches, of which I am one, with experience as CEOs and elite-level sports coaches who understand the challenge of having to step forward even when you are unsure of what the moment requires of you. We are guided by the belief that there is no algorithm for leadership, but there is a way to align your values, vision, and behaviour in a way that helps you excel and elevate your leadership. If you'd like to know more, we are always keen on chatting about leadership, and our contact details are in the show notes. Welcome to the Great Coaches Podcast.
To me, being perfect is not about that scoreboard out there.
This is a chance of a lifetime.
When you can understand the person, you can then work towards a common goal.
We are all on the same team.
Know your role and do it to the best of your ability.
Focus on the fundamentals. We've gone over time and time again.
Your defense has got to be better.
Leave no doubt tonight.
Great moments are born from great opportunity.
Hello and welcome to the Great Coaches Podcast. My name is Paul Barnett, and here on the podcast, we believe that there is not yet an algorithm for leadership. And so we interview great sports coaches from around the world to try and find one or two ideas from them on how to be a better leader. We interview sports coaches because we believe they possess the type of leadership skills that make a long-term impact on people's lives. Our great coach on this episode is Jeroen Delmee. Jeroen is a field hockey coach who first represented the Netherlands in 1994. He retired in 2008 with 401 international caps and as a two-time Olympic champion. He then transitioned into coaching, working with the Dutch national women's team, the Belgium men's team, and then 4 years leading the French national team. In 2021, he was appointed as the head coach of the Dutch men and led them to gold at the 2023 Men's EuroHockey Championship and the 2024 Summer Olympics. He is the only Dutch sportsman in history to win Olympic gold as both a player and as a coach. Just before we go to the interview, today's podcast is brought to you by the Macquarie University Business School's MBA program, which is designed to empower, challenge, and transform you. Their MBA gives you the business skills and knowledge you need to exceed in an evolving global economy. And I say this as someone who has first-hand knowledge as I occasionally go along and give lectures at the university. If you'd like to know more, search for the Macquarie University Business School's MBA. And now, please enjoy our interview with Jeroen Delmee.
Leadership insights from the best. Welcome to the Great Coaches Podcast.
Jeroen Delmee, good morning to you and welcome to the Great Coaches Podcast.
Yeah, good morning.
Very happy to have you here, of course. And with me tonight is my good friend, Dr. David Turner. Hello, David.
Hello. Nice to see you.
Good to see you again, David. Looking forward to this interview. We won't talk about the weather because you're both over there in cold old Europe and I'm here having a lovely summer. So why don't we start there, Jeroen? Why don't you tell us where you are in the world and what you've been doing so far today?
For now, I'm just 5 days back in Holland. I just came back from South Africa. If you look at the weather, is a better place to be than in Holland at the moment. We had a really good 2-week training camp, and we are 5 days at home. And on Friday, I leave for Spain. We have another block of Pro League where we play Spain and England in Valencia in Spain. So I'm a bit in between locations, but that's a good thing when you're a hockey coach in winter. You move away from the cold and you look for warmer places to prepare.
We're thrilled to get a little bit of your time. We've been lucky enough to interview some terrific hockey coaches, Rick Charlesworth, Marcus Weiss, Graham Reed, Alison Annan. There's been quite a few of them, and we're really happy to add your name to that list, Jeroen. But maybe we can start there. You've worked with some great coaches. You've also had experience with them up close. I can see Herman Kraus, Royland Altmans, Mark Lamars. There's been quite a few.
Yeah.
What do you think the great coaches do differently, Jeroen, that sets them apart?
Yeah, I think what makes the real good ones different, I think you have a lot of good coaches, but what makes the other ones special, I think, is the real bonding with the players and the team, and even being able to put themselves not in front of the group, but maybe sometimes behind the group, and really think about the players, the connection with the players, that the players really feel that the coach is there for them and that the coach is not there for himself. I think there are a lot of good coaches that are good at one aspect or tactically or team building, but the ones that that last longer, I think that are the ones that have the real connection with the players.
Selflessness is a big part of coaching.
Yeah, maybe that's the word. Your English is better than mine.
No, that's fine. There's been so many great Dutch coaches in different sports over the years. Have you noticed anything about Dutch coaches that perhaps differentiates them from other people around the world?
Well, I think it's more a cultural thing. We're known as people that speak out, that don't think twice or don't tell what they think. And I think that's for coaches also the same. I think we are able to create real clarity within a team. But I think if I look at the way things are going now, I think the way you create this clarity within a team, the way you do it is changing a bit with changing generations. But I think this clarity, and I think the compactness of Holland, really easy to train together, to be a lot together, spend a lot of time together, helps also a lot by creating these coaches having the best facilities around them.
Let's talk about that a little bit. You're the first Dutchman to win a gold medal and coach a gold medal, which is a great honour, but that also means you've spanned many Olympics. How have you seen the change in communication style happen over that journey?
Yeah, I think you see it's everywhere. Like when I started, I was the young guy and I had to pick up all the balls and I had to collect all the bibs after the training session. And there was a real hierarchy in every team. And if I look at the teams now that I'm coaching now, the whole hierarchy is just almost flat. Everyone wants to get involved. Everyone wants to have input. That real hierarchy of the leader inside the team is not as clear as it was in the past. When I was playing, you had the real leaders. That's my captain. He's deciding. He's there for the team. Yeah, those distances are a lot smaller, and the organizational structure is more flat, as we say it. A bit like Holland. It's really flat.
We get back to communication a little bit. I want to ask one more question and then I'm going to hand over to David. But I'd like to talk a little bit about your family. You come from a hockey family. Mum, dad, brother, you all played. Your father was a famous coach in the Netherlands as well. Yeah. Were you always destined for a career in hockey, Jeroen?
Unfortunately, I think so. There's nothing else I can do than play hockey. I try to work, be behind the desk, but no, the whole family, not just my brother and my parents were playing hockey, but my uncles, my aunts, my nephews. We come from a village where hockey was a big part of the community. The hockey club was the place to go in the weekends. That's where you spend your time. So there wasn't a lot of choice for me. I'm horrible with the football. So in the end, then you stick to your hockey stick and a hockey ball. And yeah, before you're playing in the national team for 15 years. I had no real choice.
Jeroen, what are the skills and qualities you think required of players in international rather than domestic hockey?
If I look to the game of hockey and how that changed, for me, I can't compare the level of club hockey anymore to international hockey. If you look at the club hockey players, they play 50, 55 minutes from the 60 minutes. And internationally, we have guys that only play 30 or 40 minutes. But in their 30 or 40 minutes, their output is bigger than in a club game.
Yeah.
So especially the intensity is so different from club hockey. We really talk in the team about our sprinting game. I think that's the way hockey evolved. It's a sprinting game nowadays. And when I started, it was more like conditioning, and you could go for 70 minutes, and in the end you were fine. But now what's demanded from the players that every little opportunity you have, you need to go flat out. You have to go 100%. And I have guys coming back to the bench totally wasted. They have 3 minutes to recover, and they go out and they do the same again. And they do that, if you look at the Olympics, 8 games in 13 days. So especially the physical part of the game has changed completely from a more conditioning game to a sprinting game. And I think you see that in most of the sports.
Yeah, so that's quite a transition for those domestic players going into international work, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's why our training program also has changed, where in the past we had 1 extra session a week with the national team on a Wednesday evening. But now we have 2 sessions on a Monday. We have 2 sessions every Tuesday during the club competition to make sure that weekly load is that big that they can also handle that when they have to go into a tournament. If we just wait for the competition to finish, then we have to close such a big physical gap towards the tournament that's impossible to do.
Yeah.
So the way we train our athletes has changed over the past decades.
Yeah. Okay, let's get back to your story. You stopped playing in 2008, and then you transitioned into coaching straight away. First as assistant with the Dutch women, and then with the Belgian men. So what was the biggest skill you had to develop in those years?
The soft skills, being less Dutch. I think that's what I had to develop. No, of course I was in men's hockey, and then going into women's hockey is already a different world. But I think I learned the most from my period in Belgium, where when you think as a player, I think as a Dutch guy. But when you have to coach in front of a different group with a different culture, and the Belgian culture is really different, it's not as direct as the Dutch culture is. I really made some big mistakes there, to be honest. And I learned a lot from that. And I started thinking less as what do I think, but what is the impact on the things I want or the decisions I made on a different person. So thinking less about me, but more about how would certain decisions fall into a group. What do the players think? It's more the soft skills, how you bring a message. It cannot always be the direct Dutch way. Sometimes it has to be, but more often it's not like that. So especially those soft skills, I think that changed me the most as a person and as a coach.
That's really interesting. I love the way you said you made some big mistakes, but they were the things you learned from, which is really interesting for other coaches, I think, to take away. What are the benefits and drawbacks of having been an ex-elite player in the sport you're now coaching?
Yeah, the biggest one is knowing what's going on in the head of players. What's happening when you have to play a semi-final at the Olympics, or you go into the final of the Olympics. Where should you focus on? Knowing what's going on. I've played 15 years in the national team, so almost every situation you experience yourself as a player. And I think that's putting yourself in the position of the player and where are they at this moment? Where are they mentally at this moment? What's needed at this moment? I think that's the biggest advantage when you've been there. I've seen the Olympics as a player. I know the dangers of the Olympics, for example, and you just try to hand on that information to the players that go there for the first time, or players that have a really big setback at Tokyo, for example, and where the whole culture and team wasn't the team it should be, that you teach them, okay, how do I think? What have I experienced? How should the team be like? How should you experience the national team? All those experiences is just one-on-one. You can hand on to the players. And I think they for them, especially if it goes on hockey and living the tournaments, they know I've been there. I've had several tournaments. It's easier for them to, okay, I believe this guy in front of me.
So a big part of that is empathy, isn't it? That you can empathize with how they're feeling and how they're thinking in that situation.
Yeah.
What about
and what it does to players? For me, like the final of the Olympics in my coaching, I didn't talk about winning and how nice a gold medal is, but I spoke with them like the gold medal is much more than that, and it's creating a bond for life. And I'm still having a bond with the guys we won in '96 and 2000. I don't have a lab group with the guy that lost the final in Athens. It's just that medal connects you for life and really makes a team so special that, you meet each other in 40 years. It's still the team. It's still the group. It's friends for life. That's what a medal does. And that's the experience, more or less, one of the experiences I have. Is, you can still, at that moment, you can touch them with something where they are all, it's gold. No, it's much more than gold. That's maybe the 1.0% extra that you can give them or motivate them to go out and win and play.
And what are the drawbacks potentially of being an ex-elite player? Are there any that you don't?
Yeah, as I said, the drawback is that you think too much as a player, especially when it becomes, it's, for a player it works like that. For me, it worked like that, but every player is different. And you have to, although I was captain and I was able to think more or less for the team, as a coach, you have to think even more. I think not about hockey, but also what's behind hockey, what's the impact on the life of a player. So that you're too narrow-minded in the beginning, and you have to be you really need to have an open focus on everything you do and the impact on the team.
I asked you this question about players, but I'm going to ask you the same question about coaches. So what are the skills and qualities required of coaches in international rather than domestic hockey, do you think?
I think that important is the story that you tell. It has to be correct. Where in domestic competition, it's players that can lead the team, that decide more or less what's going on. But internationally, they follow more the coach than they're used to at domestic level. And the moment your story isn't right, they will find out immediately, and the trust flows away. So I think the impact of that of a coach internationally is bigger, to keep all the stars together and make sure that also all the hockey stars who are the biggest players at their club are still there for the team, and still think that the team is the most important thing, where maybe you're the star at the club, but in the national team you're just one of the guys. And managing that, and that managing that as a coach is more important, I think, than at club level.
That's really interesting. So your story that you're creating and selling to the players is the thing that makes them a cohesive unit at international level. Because you said the story is, the players can lead it at domestic level because they create the story in a way because they're so local. But you're dealing with a diverse group. Yeah, really interesting. Okay. I have this really interesting quote from you. You said, "I'm a thinker, always have been, even as a child. I doubt everything. That makes me thorough." So that made me wonder, of all the skills a head coach needs, how important is doubt?
Yeah, for me it's important. But the reason for me why it's important is that before I make the decision, I hope I have thought about all the possible scenarios. And if you have no doubt, you say, okay, this is it, and then you take a quick decision. Yeah, really often I change my decision in the end after thinking 1, 2, 3 times, discussing things with my assistant. Yeah, is it the right decision, yes or no? Yeah, I think that helps me in the end to make sure that I make the right decisions on the right causes, why I take the decisions. I think that's important also to be able to explain to players, how did you come to a certain decision, that it's not, oh, I'm not selected, but this is, I hear this for the first time. I think the transparency you need as a coach is really important. And yeah, doubting for me already builds a story in my mind. Okay, how do I come to a certain decision? And yeah, that helps me. But I can imagine that there are coaches that hate that. Just want to be quick on the decision.
Yeah,
and just go. But yeah, it's what I am. I'm very irrational. I try to explain everything. For me, there must be a why in everything. It's not just built on emotions. And that's being rational and doubting makes me think a lot, and in the end hoping to make the right decisions. Also helping to explain the decisions to the team or to a player, or how I came to that decision.
Yeah, so your doubt allows you to rationalize your decisions for yourself, and that allows you to better explain those decisions to the players. Yeah, lovely. Thank you. I'll hand over to Paul.
I've had situations where, 1 week before I have to make a selection for the World Cup, for example. Every training I'm in the car with my assistant, and the one day I say, I think I go for player A, and he says, but I think player B. And 2 days later in the car, I say, maybe you're right, I go for player B. And then he says, but I'm now going to player A. It's just that thinking process. Yeah, I think it's really important to, in the end, make the right decision. That you really have thought about everything and not just an at random decision.
Jeroen, after Belgium, you had time leading the French men's national team, and you did a great job with them. You took them through to the quarterfinals of the World Cup in 2018, which for them was a really strong performance. But what I'd like to ask you is, how did that experience from Belgium to France shape you and the philosophy that you then took into the Dutch job?
In Holland, I think we have the luxury of always playing for the number 1 spot. That's in club competition, that's with the national youth teams. Everyone is used to performing at the top. But no one knows, how did we get there? I think what I learned is there's a certain road to success. And that's what I learned in Belgium as well. When we started this, I think we were 13th on the world ranking. Yeah, how do you get to, when I left, we were, I think, 3rd in the world. What's needed to have that success? And the same was a bit with France. But in France, I could use a bit the lessons I learned in Belgium. It's not just, okay, we go out and you're there and you compete and you go for spot 3. There are several steps to get there. And every time I thought, okay, now we're there. Okay, you run to another door that's closed and you need to open that. For example, the pressure of expectations. In Belgium, no one ever had expectations. You think you're doing well with the team. We're ready at the World Cup in 2014. We're ready to go for the medal. But suddenly there were expectations. Okay, we expect Belgium to win a medal. And guys never experienced that. And that put extra pressure on them. And then you see, okay, it's not that normal that you perform at that level. You have to deal with certain pressures from the outside before you are there. I hope I make myself clear. But that's more or less what I learned, that it's, okay, how do you get there? And, okay, if you are then getting into the Dutch team, okay, do they still know did they make the right steps? Are they ready? Did they check every box to win? And I think they didn't. In the end, they didn't check every box, and that's why we didn't win for a long time. But you look at the game differently. You look at the team. You look differently at success, and how you create that success. It's not just because we're in orange we have success. But there are steps to success, and that's a bit what I learned in Belgium and in France.
When you took over the Dutch team in 2021, you made changes and the new group were relatively inexperienced. So what were some of the first decisions you made to help that team come together as a unit?
I first started with talking to everyone that went to Tokyo, to the Olympics. And what I was missing was in those talks was the 100% commitment and the team cohesion. So I wanted to build a new team with a different culture. That was, in top sports, if you just go for 98% is not enough. You have to go for the full 100%. So building that, I had to break down the old culture. And to do that, I first wanted those old players out of the team, because then it's easier to build a new culture. So we put some players on hold and see if we needed them at the end, because I thought the team was more important than individual good hockey players. And so that was the biggest step I made, is putting the big names more or less in the waiting room on the sideline. And in the end, there was only one player that came back that we needed, I think, and the other ones, they stayed on the sideline. And because I believe in the power of the team, where I think that maybe in Tokyo we had better hockey players, but not a better team as we had in Paris. I really believe in the power of the team, and I choose for that. And that meant that I kept the top scorer of the Dutch Hockey League at home. I left the best player of the Dutch Hockey League at home, because I think without them I had a better and stronger team.
That's really interesting. That's very topical. Thomas Tuchel is thinking about that with the England football team. It's not necessarily the most talented players.
No.
But it's sometimes the players that make the team stronger. Yeah, really interesting.
Yeah, we looked at different at the team, I think, the people did in the past. In Holland, we're used to selecting the best hockey players. But if I have, for example, that's the easiest example, I have 4 or 5 strikers, and they're all good with the ball. They can all score a goal. But I have not one striker that can win a ball. That's good defensively. That means I will win my duels at my own half, and we still have to go 50 meters to the circle. If I have 1 or 2 guys that are maybe not as skillful, but they are real good at pressing, putting on a high press, and we win our balls in the attacking half, that makes my team a lot stronger. So we look differently at the balance. What do we need from an offensive side, but also from a defensive side? And that's not really Dutch to look at the defense, but that's what we do a lot. We talk more about defense than about offense.
Okay, interesting. How do you approach the issue of player rotation as an international head coach? The players that you do select, you've already said it's very intense. You're going to have to rest people.
Yeah.
You're going to have to bring in new talent and see how it performs in the pressure. So how do you approach the issue of player rotation?
For me, that's pretty easy, because everyone will play. So we have a selection of 18 players. Only the second goalie normally doesn't play. So all the other ones, they play. So in hockey, that makes life easy as a coach, because in general, all the players are happy because they're playing. And like soccer, you have 6 guys on the bench and they don't play, so they get a bit frustrated. But we have set rotation schedules. The players know exactly when to go in, for whom. So that's all been organized before a tournament, before every game. They know exactly what to expect. And that doesn't cost me any time, because they do it themselves. It's such a normal habit now that there are no discussion about that anymore.
Interesting.
You've got social dialed in. Search is doing its thing. So why do your marketing results look the same as 6 months ago? That's because you're fishing in the same pond as everyone else. Podcast listeners are a different audience entirely. more engaged, harder to reach through traditional channels, and ready to act when someone they trust makes a recommendation. We're Acast, and we put them right in front of you. Browse thousands of the world's leading podcasts, book host reads or run your own ads, and track every conversion in real time. Same skills you already have, brand new results. Acast. Acast.com/advertise.
Jeroen, can I come back and ask you a question, about you said earlier you left the top scorer from the Dutch league at home to come into the team. I imagine you would have had some criticism, some feedback at the very least. Talk me through how you handled the criticism that came with those selection decisions.
Now, to be honest, I didn't get any criticism because a lot of people, they have seen the Dutch national team for the past 15 or 20 years. The people from the federation, they know more or less what's going on in the team and what's missing. And also, they felt that something had to change. And I think I was lucky, or my decisions turned out good, that we started winning from the first moment on. And as long as you're winning, you get a lot of friends and there's not a lot of criticism. And you can continue. But yeah, if I had lost a lot of games and they were still on the sideline, of course, there would have been criticism. I think that's normal. But no, I didn't get any criticism. I've been really open with the players as well, because I don't like fooling them. So they know exactly where they were and in what situation. And I've had several talks even while they were on hold, where I saw them at a certain moment. So for them, yeah, they knew where they were. The transparency was really clear. So there was also no discussion about that. I even discussed those situations with the club coaches, so everyone knew exactly the position of every player at every moment. And that helps also to continue with your plan to work on that culture and build on a new team.
Jeroen, can I go from there to mental strength? I've heard you talk about the fact that the tools and the training that are available for the players you're leading, when it comes to developing mental strength, is very different than what was available when you were playing. Could you tell me a little bit about how you go about developing mental strength in your team?
Yeah. When I was playing, there was no mental coach. There was nothing. Mental coaching was like a dirty word. That's for the softies, and that was the old culture. I still don't have a mental coach in my team, because I don't really believe in the team sessions, but I do believe in the individual needs from a mental side for play, because everyone has different issues, has different problems. In 4 years' time, I think when we started, we always ask, is something missing to the players? Do you miss someone for the mental part of the team? And they said, no, we don't need it. And I think now 4 years later, I think 90% of the players, they have an individual mental coach. Most of them supported by the National Olympic Committee. But that keeps it really individual to help them to be at their best. And I think that's important. The mental strength is that every individual is ready to go out there and be at his best at that moment, what's possible. Within the team, for me, yeah, the mental strength is all about Olympic values. It's just keep pushing the team. That's what I believe. If you keep pushing, they will start pushing themselves. And that's what makes the team better. Just trying to go harder, go faster, go higher, go smarter. That's what we try to do as a staff, but it's more on the training pitch. But I've had a lot of those team sessions when I was coaching in Belgium. But that was more about developing a team that didn't know what high performance sports was about, to teach them the basics of high performance sports. My players, they've been there all the time. They know what it is, but it's okay, how am I going to deal with my personal environment, that can be family issues, that can be how do I organize work or education around the hockey. It can be everything. But in the end, they all like to have someone to talk to, and some things you don't want to talk about with your head coaches, and I completely agree.
Jeroen, the Dutch have always been known as brilliant field hockey players, and it's the second biggest sport in the country. Yet it was a 24-year break between the 2024 Olympic gold and the last one. So what had to change for the team to reclaim gold?
First of all, everyone looks at it as what's wrong with the Dutch. To start with, I think if you look at international hockey from the men's side, there are hardly any teams that won a back-to-back gold medal, for example. The competition is that big, and winning a gold medal is scoring one shootout more than the other team. It's really close together. If you look at the general results of the Dutch, second at the Olympics in London, second at the World Cup in 2014. We've always been there, more or less in the top three, but never being on that top platform. Yeah, but I think in the end, what made the difference is the cultural part, the way we worked at our team culture, and that you have to go into a tournament that at the end you say, okay, no regrets, we've done really everything. There's nothing more we can think about that we didn't speak about or didn't touch going into the tournaments, and creating a mindset with a team that, okay, this is it, we're ready as we can be, that there are no doubts. And I think, for example, in the Tokyo group, there were a lot of doubts that they knew when they left that they were not completely ready. And I think that's what you need to take care of.
Talking of preparation for things like tournaments, how did you prepare effectively for a tournament that I heard that you had, where you had multiple games in quick succession in warmer conditions? So how did you specifically prepare for that?
You have a really good strength and conditioning coach, so he knows how to prepare the guys. Like the preparation for Paris started 9 months before Paris, so every week he knew what targets we had to hit to make them physically ready for Paris. But from a hockey point of view, going into a tournament, you know what teams you're going to play in the pool phase. So I believe that your analysis must be ready already before the tournament. If inside of in the tournament, you still have to start doing your analysis, then as a coach, you get too tired because there's so much you got to do. You're switched on 24/7. If you then still have to pay all your attention into analysis, you don't have enough time in the tournament. So the preparation for us leading up to the tournament is knowing your opponents before you get there, and the hard work starts when the quarterfinals. When that part starts, then you don't really know who you're going to play before, but you still have a bit of a feeling what an opponent can do.
Can I ask you specifically about recovery? What are some of the things you do for recovery? Because they were rapid games and it was hot as well.
Yeah, that's especially has to do with nutrition and rest. We don't have more time than that. We are used to playing so many games in a short period, so for us that's not really new. On the really extreme hot days, they use ice baths, but scientifically that's never been 100% proven that it works. But some players just like it, so we just make them feel good. But it's just the immediate recovery. Make sure your nutrition is in order, that you rest when you can. During Olympics, all you do is go out to the hockey pitch, lay on your bed, eat, and that every day. So that's life at that moment. There's no time for energy wasting somewhere else.
Tell me about the idea that ignoring is accepting.
It comes from, there was some coaches platform. I think it comes from Ben Ryan. He used to coach with the Fijis, rugby sevens. And he really triggered me with that line. The moment you ignore a certain behavior, it sticks to your team and it sticks to your culture.
Right.
And it's the only rule we have in the team to make sure that we protect our culture, that the moment a certain behavior that doesn't belong here, you have to address it. You have to speak up, because one guy does it, the next day the other one does it as well, and before you know, it's becoming a part of your culture. And it's a really easy, simple rule, but for us, it works really good. And so I'm thankful to Ben for that. I really believe in it. And the easiest example is like the dressing room with the Japanese soccer team. It's cleaner after the game than before. That's just culture. And if one guy leaves all his ankle tape on the floor, it can also be a huge mess. That's the impact of culture and protecting your culture. And yeah, that's what we need to do, because I think that culture brought us to Paris to the gold medal, and we really have to protect that.
Absolutely.
Jeroen, I've got a quote from you I'd like to explore, actually. You say, motivation is not just about winning, but about creating an environment where athletes thrive, even under pressure. Now, earlier you talked about believing in the power of the team and getting the right people in that team. But I'm wondering, what else are the big blocks that you put in place where you can create an environment where athletes can thrive?
I think an important part, of course, is the trust. And the trust goes with, I think, the individual attention you give to players. Yeah, I really feel that we as a staff, we are there for the players. And I think the players, they feel that we are there for them. And we are there to help them become better hockey players and better athletes. So that the trust of the players in us as a staff, I think, is really important. And that it's not only about winning, but improve. Yeah, I love the word improve. It's about improving every day. Every day you go to training to become a better athlete than the day before. I believe in that, and that's, in the end, that's making a better player, that's building a better team, and in the end, the best team will win. So it's up to me as a coach to build that environment, to have the individual talks with players, to show them certain videos, okay, this is where you can work on, to stay in contact with them. I think that trust part is really important. It's really important in that one. That's my feeling. And knowing where you talk about. So every player has his own individual plan. After I've had individual talks, no group training will ever win it from an individual session, because I know the impact the day after when a guy goes to training. I immediately see him, okay, now he's working on himself again. Now he's working, now he's improving. Instead of just, how many athletes, they go to a training, they did the training, they go back home and that was it. Okay, what did I do today? Did I just ask, the coach asked me to, or within a certain exercise, what's in it for me? How can I get more out of that? If we do some match play, how do I going to implement my personal points into that match play? That's what we try to do constantly. And that individual attention with the personal development plan, together with the trust, I think that what's created the growth of the players and the team, I think.
So rather than the players going through the motions in training, we're trying to get them to own the improvement process.
Yeah, that's what we hate, going through the motions.
Yeah.
But that makes a difference, I think, in our culture and the way we work together. I can give you an example. We just came out of South Africa, and we came through a bit of a rough time where everyone was searching a bit, what's going to be my way to go at my best to the World Cup this year in August. And we had some team building activities in South Africa. We've been talking a lot of individual talks with the guys that are talks of over an hour per person. And then having a training session there, and during the session, guys talking to each other, but I want the ball a bit more there, or if you do this, I don't need to tell them to talk together, to sit together, to get better. They are working themselves together. And if you can create that environment as a coach, I think you're on the right track. And that's what we try. You need to invest in each other. You need to invest in the team, and you need to not just take it from the team, but you need to bring something back to the team. What do you give to the team? And that feeling came back to me. Okay, that's been a long time since I've had that feeling that everyone's giving back to the team at the moment and giving back to his teammate. Okay, I'm going to make you a better hockey player. And that's the environment in the end that we try to create. I believe that's the way for us to win another gold medal at the World Cup, hopefully in August.
An environment of improvement. Love it. This question I've really been looking forward to asking. Is my favorite question. It's the first thing I read about you, and I'm really curious about it. So I've been looking forward to this. You stated that it is more emotional to win as a coach than a player. So I wonder, could you explain and reflect upon why that might be?
Because as a coach, you're thinking for 32 people at all time. And you have your players, you have your staff, and you're working with everyone so close together. In the end, you get most connected to the players. And whereas a player, you're just focusing more on yourself. I've been working on, let's say, the Olympics on 18 guys to get them at their best, to make them experience the national team the way they should be, to enjoy hockey, to enjoy each other as a team. And when you see it succeed, when it succeeds, the pride you have in being part of that is, for me, it was the most beautiful moment in my sports career. And I've never been crying as a player, but as a coach, I'm crying all the time because I really wish for them to get the best out of their careers. And it's not just about winning, but being together as a team and enjoying hockey, enjoying sports, you travel the whole world. That's the best life there is. And if you can celebrate that with a gold medal, and helping, because in the end, that's what you do. You're helping them to get that feeling and experience that success. It's unbelievable, to be honest.
I love the way that you connect with the emotional care of being the head coach there, and that you get more emotional joy from that. I wanted to also ask you, do you think it's more difficult to win as a coach than a player?
Oh, that's a difficult question.
Sorry.
Introducing the Total Solutions Advantage only from Comcast Business. It's the largest, fastest fiber-powered network for small business. Gig speeds with equipment and security included, and a 5-year price lock. No one does business like Comcast Business.
Switch today. Get started for $60 a month for 12 months when you add an advanced solution to a qualifying internet package. Limited time offer. Restrictions apply. New customers only. Requires 300 megabits per second internet, security edge, and additional qualifying service. 1-year agreement, paperless billing, and auto pay with bank account required. Taxes and fees extra.
You've never been one to settle. Stand down or stand still. You're a lifelong learner, energized by excellence. There's a fire inside you can't ignore. You've got competition to outrun, momentum to build on, and your own high standards to meet. Stop now? Not a chance. At Capella University, we help you catch what you're chasing because you've always had the drive. Now, go earn the degree. Capella University. What can't you do? Visit capella.edu to learn more.
No, I think in the end it's a bit the same because you share the same tournaments. Then maybe you need to see, okay, what's winning? What's winning? Is that just the medal? For me, winning, when I started as the Dutch head coach, one of my goals was also to get everyone loving the Dutch men's team again. It was always about the women. They won everything, and the feeling about the national team was, let's say, a bit grumpy. And I think that we've achieved in the past years that everyone is now embracing also the Dutch men's team. Not only the fans, but also club coaches, clubs, the way we work together with the clubs. it's everyone's loving the man again. Yeah, that's also winning for me. The player sees a medal, but yeah, for me as a coach, I look at the bigger picture. If you have guys that didn't enjoy the national team for a while, making them enjoy that national team again, that's also winning. So for me, there are a lot of different ways of winning, and I think that's different as a coach than as a player. The player just wants to gold medal. And I look at it, there's more than just winning the medal.
I knew that would be a great question.
Yeah, it's a good question.
David, I might just close this out. I think we've had almost an hour of Jeroen's time. But Jeroen, you've got the World Cup ahead of you. You've got the Olympics after that. You're still relatively young in your coaching career. And in this interview today, we've talked about the power of team and care and selflessness, doubt. And I'm wondering, what is the legacy that you're working towards as a coach?
Yeah, the last few weeks I've been talking a lot about legacy. And I think for me, that's a bit the same as for the players. I hope when I look at the national team in 10 years that I still see something of what I see now. That they still, the same energy, the power, the pleasure on the pitch. To hope to see that still by that time. The same I spoke about with my players, where some now they've had multiple World Cups, they have multiple Olympics, they won the Olympics. Some they say, okay, but can I individualize a bit because I know how I need to take care of my body. No one needs to tell me. And I've been thinking about that. In Holland, we're really bad at giving the legacy to the next generation. I think that's the reason why we haven't won anything for 24 years. So it's not about individualizing, it's just about putting even more energy into the team. The players need to invest more instead of going back to themselves to make sure that the legacy, what the guys have been working for the past 4 years, that's being handed over to the young guys that come in now. And I hope to see that same culture, the guys that are pushing each other, searching the limits, high energy hockey, knowing that every detail is important and it's not just about hockey, it's about much more. That I can still see that out there on the pitch. That's what I hope. That's what we're aiming for now, already towards the World Cup. But also when I stop with the national team, probably after LA, that when I go out there, that I see that same spirit and the same way of working together as the whole Dutch community, clubs, coaches, club coaches, national team coaches, that everyone is there for the national team. That's what I hope that I will see within the next decade, when I'm not there anymore.
I think that feels like a pretty good place to end. Not with you not being there anymore, but with this idea of changing the game and leaving it in a better place. So, Jeroen, it's been great getting to know you, reading a little bit about your story. It's terrific, and the team have got so much excitement ahead of them. We wish you all the best. I hope that you take home the silver and Australia gets the gold. But apart from that, I'll be supporting you.
Oh, that's great to hear you.
Jeroen, from me, thank you very much. I didn't know much about you before this, but I love your manner, I love your thought process, and I love your emotional investment. This podcast is about great coaches, but I can just tell from meeting you that it would be great to be coached by you. And nice to meet you.
No, that's a big compliment. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Hi everyone, you have been listening to the great coach Jeroen Delmee. We hope you enjoyed it and found one or two things that you can bring back to your own dinner table, locker room, or work table for discussion. When I was listening back doing the edit, some of the things that stood out for me were Jeroen's belief that soft skills matter a lot, and how he learned that his communication style must adapt to the people, cultures in which he was actually coaching, rather than just using the same approach everywhere he went. The intentionality with which he went about rebuilding the Dutch team culture especially after Tokyo, where he felt the team lacked full commitment and cohesion. And his views that mental support should be individual. He does not emphasise team-wide mental coaching sessions, but instead believes that players benefit from individual mental support that is tailored to their needs. I hope you enjoyed it as much as Dr. David and I did. And just before we go, if you have any feedback, then please let us know. Just like a Lambo 10 who said, "This has quickly become my go-to podcast. Well done and keep up the good work. It's a gift." Thanks, Lambo 10. We love the interaction with the people around the world who listen, and comments like this give us the energy to continue. If you have any feedback or an idea for improvement or know a great coach that we should interview, please reach out to us. All the details are in the show notes or on our website, thegreatcoachespodcast.com.
Here's a tip for you. There's a podcast out there with fans waiting to be your next customer. They tune in every week, they trust the host, and that host wants to talk about brands like yours in their own words to their audience. The problem is, you just haven't been introduced yet. We're Acast, where that introduction happens. As the world's largest podcast marketplace, we let you browse shows, see who's listening, and book host-read sponsorships or run your own ads, all from one platform. Transparent pricing, real-time data, complete control. Start advertising on podcasts by visiting acast.com/advertise.